I spent 5 years on the retail media side years ago. I started in 2000 and started about 9 years ago in retail media. And, let me tell you, trying to sell retail media agencies that long ago, I was being on commission. I ate a lot of ramen noodles. There was not a lot of people leaning in and investing in the space at that time. So today that's drastically changed and exploded. But, when we really look at it, and at Publicis, we've made a lot of acquisitions in the space to set us up and our clients up, our agencies up, to be able to have that end-to-end solution, everything from strategy and buying to having products to having the right data and then having the media solutions. So I think really where it's going is that you're going to continue to see probably more and more of them popping up. There's been quite a few of them popping up over the last few years post-pandemic. And I think you'll continue to see that, but I also think they'll start to broaden their offerings, and that the definition of what we would say is retail media has become more commerce media, and that's getting bigger and bigger. So we define commerce media really a lot bigger than just those low funnel tactics that we've all known and bought over the years across Amazon and Walmart and those other retailers.
So that's interesting. Can you talk a little bit about how you think about commerce media? Because this is actually a debate that I have had with colleagues in the past.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what your perspective
is. Yeah,
is.
absolutely. I define it more as like a new form of advertising that is takes a media impression all the way to a commerce transaction. So anything that it really could be upper funnel to lower funnel if you think about it, as long as it has a certain commerce outcome. So I think about it more in outcomes and think about it in any media impression. That doesn't mean that other media like television and audio and print doesn't have other jobs to do, but it also means that you can utilize those in a much bigger way in order to also drive a commerce transaction.
Okay, so I imagine you have a fairly robust multi-retailer strategy,
yes,
right? Where you have deep relationships with big retailers.
Yes.
And you are also thinking about ways to work across retailers.
Yes.
What about smaller retailers? What do you think the opportunity is there? How are you engaging with smaller retailers?
Yeah, and when I mentioned that I'd started my career on the retail side, I was at a small retail media network called My Web Grocer, and they were really the predecessor to the Criteos and the Citrus Ads and the Quotients of the world. So they were fairly a smaller company, but they started to acquire and become the retail media networks for the long tail, because those didn't have the ability to build their own, like an Albertsons or a KPM or a Walmart or an Amazon. And they were really looking at those capabilities and putting those together holistically and then going out and selling, similar to Criteo and Citrus Ad, to all of the retailers so that they too could jump in the game. And that was a really hard sell in the beginning. Those small retailers, they weren't leaning into e-commerce. They thought 98% of my sales is in store. Why do I need to spend this much energy and really infrastructure? I mean, the infrastructure that has to happen from a pack and a warehousing and all the different things. That's more than just media. That's really operations focused. Was really difficult. And so having those conglomerates that are like the Citrus Ads and the Criteos and Quotients of the world, being able to have a lot of different media tactics, they can go sell them from search to on-site display to off-site, is really important to get them in the game in a small way to dip their toe in the water. And then what we've seen is as they've gotten larger, those retailers have either gotten larger or e-commerce has become a bigger focus, they may start to build their own in-house. But I think it's a nice stopgap, if not permanent solution for a lot of the small long-tail retailers.
This wasn't on my list, but how far have you guys pushed into off-site relationships with the retailers versus the kind of more classic on-site ad experiences that they offer?
Yeah, I think Publicis is probably unique in that way, in that we both have media agencies who are just helping our clients succeed on the retailer platforms, whether on-site or off-site, but we also have companies like Epsilon and Publicis Sapient and Razorfish, places that build these retailer websites for them and also have the data to be able to run off-site capabilities. I think it's important for retail media to begin to push into offsite or into other partnerships like Pinterest and others, because at some point you run out of inventory. You know, once everybody starts selling in e-com, not just the top 25 like Kellogg's or Kraft or P&G, but once you're really pulling dollars from all the long tail, at some point your on-site search and your on-site inventory, you know, is going to run out. And so being able to use data to target offsite and sell that as part of your platform, I think is very, very important.
We used to call it audience extension. You remember
yes,
that?
we used to call it audience extension as well. Yes, we used to do that. And I think the other thing is that helps the retailer grow their audience, because if you're only talking to the people who are only coming to your site, which is X percentage of people who before their shopping trip visit an Albertsons or visit a Kroger or Walmart, then you know you're not really growing that audience base. But once you start to get into offsite, you're finding new players and new consumers out there that you're then driving in to the website, and so you're helping them grow their audience base as well as finding shoppers that you might need in order to push them in store, and then have that closed loop reporting, which is, you know, the holy grail to have that measurement.
That's what we all want.
That's what we all really want.